Hey everyone, it's Ian for Bold Profits. Welcome to your weekly Ian cast. I want to start off this week by surprise going over Tesla. I know, very shocking, but 2019 numbers just came out for electric vehicle sales, and of course the Model 3 was at the top of the list. I've talked about this a few times, but the number two car, so the Model 3 outsold the number two highest selling car. I don't remember exactly which car that was, but the Model 3 outsold it by almost triple the number of sales. So that's pretty incredible to see that kind of dominance by Tesla just 2 years really into the Model 3's production. So a huge year for them. The Model 3 also outsold every other car company or electric vehicle company by 80,000 cars. So it was a Chinese company that was the second best-selling company in the world, and just the Model 3 alone outsold it by 80,000 cars last year. So that's pretty incredible. They have two more cars coming out that they're going to mass produce, just like the Model 3. And the Model 3 was really their first car that they produced on this scale. So now they have additional huge gigafactories all over the world. They have one in China. They've got two in America. They're building one in Germany. And the rumor is that they're going to build another one here in America. So a huge future ahead for them. They have the Model S and Model X, which they never really made on the same scale as the Model 3. But the Model Y, they're going to mass produce. They're already producing those. So sales of those are going to start soon and give them an extra boost. And then next year, they've got the Cybertruck, which they're planning to start mass producing late next year, early 2022. So that'll be another big boost. So the future is very bright for Tesla. And we also, with those 2019 numbers, we also kind of saw the decline of the traditional combustion engine vehicle. Since 2017, the sales of those traditional cars have gone down like 6.5%. And meanwhile, the sales of electric vehicles have gone up almost 70% in just 2 years. So they're taking market share, and 6.5% doesn't really sound like a lot, but that's equivalent to about 4 million cars. So these combustion engine vehicles, that industry is slowly dying, and we're going to see it kind of die out faster and faster as electric cars continue to disrupt it. And that is being spearheaded by Tesla. The Model 3, an absolute breakthrough car that's really disrupting this multi-trillion dollar internal combustion engine traditional old world car industry. Moving on to pot. So something interesting that I saw was that Illinois is now seeing a big increase in applications for medical marijuana licenses since they legalized it recreationally. Of course, that was a huge boom. They got $11 million in sales just in their first 5 days, which is a huge amount. That's more than Canada usually makes in like more than a week. And Illinois only has a third of the people as Canada. So that's a big market. They're now seeing an uptick in medical marijuana users. So that could have a ripple effect as more states continue to legalize it recreationally. We also see these big sales numbers coming in from 2019. So Oregon actually had a 22% increase in 2019. Nevada was over 20%. Pennsylvania, over the past 2 years, has made over $500 million from marijuana sales. And they're only legalized or medically. And there's still some kind of regulatory issues there. So they still have a way higher amount to grow. So Pennsylvania has actually reported shortages of marijuana, as has Illinois. Of course, with that big boom in the first week of this year, a lot of shops had to close down. And we're seeing more and more kind of shortage news come out across the United States, which is great from an investment perspective, because that shows that a lot of people have this huge demand for marijuana products. And not only that, but more states are seeing this, the amazing, huge tax revenue coming into these other states. Like Nevada made over $250 million just from January to October last year, not even the full year. Oklahoma, where it's only legalized medically, made over $50 million last year just in taxes alone. So a huge opportunity here. We're going to see a lot of states vote later this year during the election, put out votes for legalizing on some level, whether it's medically, recreationally, or both. So that could have a big effect on the marijuana market. That's a big catalyst that we're looking at for this year. Of course, I've said before, and I'll say it again, that I think that marijuana ETF, the ticker symbol is MJ, is going to go up 100% this year, possibly more. We're already starting to see rallies, the beginning signs of rallies across the board in pot stocks. And the United States is just a booming, it's like the hub of marijuana already, and only 11 states have legalized it recreationally. And we believe that that's going to go way up at the end of this year when more states vote to legalize it. We're seeing increased sentiment. So if you have the sentiment of the general public going up, I think it was 80% for millennials at last look, and also the states benefit from it, from all that tax revenue. So it's a win-win situation. We think it's going to be a great year for pot stocks. So again, MJ, that's the one to buy. I think it's going to at least double this year. And Bitcoin, I want to go over a little bit about that because just continuing, I always want to point out the demand for Bitcoin, because if you look at headlines, from major news corporations and things like that, they're always negative. They always say Bitcoin is some scam or whatever, that it has no intrinsic value. A lot of people like to say that, but the demand shows otherwise. And as you can see in this chart, people are holding their Bitcoin through thick and thin, through every crash, every dip. The amount of addresses that own one or more Bitcoin just continues to get higher. It's right near its all-time high right now, and it's about 40,000 higher. So 40,000 addresses more own a Bitcoin or more since that big peak that we saw at the end of June when Bitcoin hit $14,000 a coin. It's down to a little bit over 8 now, but we're still seeing more and more people stockpiling. And these are the ones that we want to see stockpiling because they're willing to pay up for a Bitcoin or more. The addresses that have 10 or more Bitcoins have also been going up. They're also at record highs. So it's really encouraging. The big buyers are buying and holding. That's what we want to see, because that creates less of a supply, which creates kind of a supply-demand imbalance. And when you've got a high demand and low supply, that means the price goes up. So that's what we're recommending. We want to buy Bitcoin, hold on. It's going to be a great investment. Our forecast is that it's going to hit 50,000 per coin this year. We've got the halving coming up. Of course, that's going to cut supply too. So all in all, great outlook for Bitcoin. Finally, I want to go over home building because, like I said last week, 37% of the houses bought last year were bought by millennials. Gen Z is starting to move out of college, buying homes. They are less likely to rent than millennials. They didn't have the financial crash to deal with as they were going into college or graduating from college. So they have a much better environment to buy homes. And we're seeing across the board, home building companies are saying that there is currently a huge shortage of houses in the United States because after the real estate crash, everybody wanted to sell their house, get out. It scared the home builders. They didn't want to build any extra supply because there already wasn't demand to buy the current supply. So they stopped building for years and years, and they're finally now just starting to build again. And so that's going to create another supply-demand imbalance because the supply for houses is so low. There's such a huge shortage, and there's such huge demand for millennials and Gen Z that it's going to drive the real estate market for probably an entire generation. So we've got decades of growth ahead for home building stocks. The investment that I would recommend to make is ITB, which is an ETF with all kinds of home building stocks in it. I think that's going to have a great year as well. And we're seeing some home building stocks, the leaders, make all-time highs, even higher prices than before the big real estate crash. So that kind of shows the market sentiment right now on home building stocks and just on this industry in general. It's going to have a great year this year and for years to come. So again, ITB is another one that we would recommend to buy. That is all that I have for this week. Everybody have a great Friday and enjoy your weekend, and I will see you next week.